My name is Linda Hall. I'm one of the co-founders and president of Connected Community. We were founded in 2013 by 4 moms who wanted to build a better life for their own children with disabilities as well as others like them. Through our 4 areas of service, which are educational outreach, social and service opportunities, creative day services, and employment, we strive to help families prepare for and navigate the transition out of educational entitlements and into what we hope will be a full and meaningful life in the community. I want to take a minute to introduce our CTC board members that are here today. Co-founder and director Barb Tobias is in the back taking pictures. Co-founder and director Mary Hansen is here someplace. There she is over on the side. Director Sandy Ricketts is checking people in at the door. Director Judy Sinase, who's doing double duty here with the commission, and our employment specialist, Colleen Getz, who's also out at the registration table. We're always looking for new people to get involved with Connected Community, so if you're interested in being on our board or volunteering in another way, we'd love to have you. Just reach out and we'll put you to work, I guarantee it. I want to recognize our 2 partners in this event. First is the Village of Hoffman Estates and their Commission for People with Disabilities. The Village allows us to use this beautiful room, which we really appreciate, and the Commission generously provides our morning refreshments, tech support, videography, and more. So everybody who's here from the Commission or other volunteers from the Village, do you want to stand up and be recognized? I appreciate it. They're all hanging out over there somewhere. We put them to work, too. Our second event partner is NSSEO, the Northwest Suburban Special Education Organization. NSSEO has been a partner of Connected Community pretty much since day 1, and we appreciate their support over the years. They print all of our seminar materials, and they handle the registration and administration of our continuing education credits for those professionals who are here today. So thank you so much, NSSEO. And finally, we want to publicly thank Palatine Township, who generously helps us with our educational outreach initiative, funding our events, which include free monthly Friday forums and informational tours, as well as this annual Transition Summit. Their support allows us to keep our costs low so we can keep our events as accessible to people as possible. A few notes about today's format. Because we have a really tight agenda, we ask you to please hold your questions to the end of each presentation, and we'll get to as many as we can while still keeping on our agenda format. In addition, in order to save time, behind your agenda in your event folders are the biographies for all of our speakers. Please take a look at all the accomplishments that these people have. It's amazing. And it allows me to keep my introductions very short and succinct. So take a look at those when you have a chance. Okay, so let's get started. Today's event is about housing. And like so many things in the disability world, it's not a one-size-fits-all proposition. What's an ideal housing situation for my son may be a disaster for yours, and vice versa. So today we're going to start with an overview of kind of what different options are available in the state of Illinois, and then we're going to take kind of a deeper dive into some maybe more unique or things that you haven't really heard about before to give you some information that hopefully you can use. So while not every topic is going to apply to your family's situation, we hope that when you leave today, you'll have at least some information that will help you in making more decisions and getting your journey started to find the right housing fit for you. Okay, we're going to wrap up the morning session by welcoming Vicki Niswander, a fellow parent who will share her family story of creating a home for their daughter, Annie. Annie originally planned to be with us today, but she has several activities, kind of like the epic person, several activities that she would rather be doing. So let's face it, what we really want, she didn't want to be here talking about her life, she wanted to be living her life. And as a parent, isn't that what we all want for our kids, to have full lives independent of our own? So Vicki has been an active advocate for over 4 decades, serving as the director of the Illinois Association of Microboards and Cooperatives, and on the board of both the ARC of Illinois and the Illinois Council on Developmental Disabilities, just to name a few. She even hosts a weekly radio broadcast called Disability Beat in Champaign. On a personal note, Vicki was invaluable help to Connected Community when we started 10 years ago. She helped us with our path plan, our bylaws, our 501c3 application. She really is an amazing person, parent, and leader. So please help me welcome Vicki Niswander.
work this. Okay, so yes, I'm a parent, and I've been committed to advocacy for my daughter since she was born over 40 years ago. It's hard to believe, looking at this picture, that she is now 40. This was taken when she was only 5 and starting kindergarten, and obviously did not want her picture taken. But we managed to get her in with all the other kids, and I'm going to go over big blocks of her life with not telling you very much, but I'll be around at lunchtime, so if you have any specific questions to ask, you're more than welcome to do that, or I can take questions as we go. So a little bit more about me. My background was in school inclusion. That's where Annie started, and when she started kindergarten, she was in a regular kindergarten class. Not that they'd ever done that before in the school district where we lived, but they were willing to try. And we were able to maintain that over the years. And when just a couple of stories about Annie's, when she was in 8th grade, regular junior high school, she was in a language arts class, and the teachers had been doing a great job of accommodating her needs. She has communication issues. She wasn't achieving at the same level as other students and had lots and lots of need for adaptations and accommodations. The teacher that she had for the language arts class was doing a fabulous job, but she called me up one night and said, I have a concern. We're starting a new unit on Shakespeare next week, and I just think it's going to be over Annie's head. I don't think that she's going to like it. I think she'll be bored, all these different things. And so I think it would be better if during this unit she goes to the special ed room or to the office or to the library and does something else during language arts time. And I said, being an inclusion advocate, I said, well, let's talk about what you're doing. And so the teacher said, well, we're going to be reading the book. They're reading the story, Hamlet. We're going to be reading it in class. Everyone chooses up parts and reads a role. And I said, well, Annie could read a small role. She could practice ahead of time, so that's not an issue. And then we're going to act out parts of the play in class. And at the end of the unit, we're going to go to the University of Illinois, where they're doing Hamlet as a student production this year. And we're going to see it performed on stage. I said, well, none of that sounds impossible to me. She goes, well, what about homework? And I said, well, you've been adapting your homework all along. So I don't think that there would be a problem there. Just, do what you usually do, and it should be fine. So she said, okay. I said, I'll tell you what, let's try it for just 3 days. And after 3 days, you think it's not working, we'll figure something out. And so she said, that's a deal. So Annie went to English class on Monday, and the teacher started her unit on Hamlet, and Annie came home with her first assignment. And the assignment was to write, because they had just read the first scene of Hamlet, what happened in the first scene of Hamlet? And I thought, one thing you all know as parents is that when your kid has homework, bingo, yeah. And the other thing you need to know is I despise Hamlet. I despise Shakespeare in general. Never liked it when I was in school. And I have 2 other kids, and I have to make dinner. And God damn it, I have to read Hamlet now. So I said, Annie, just tell me what happened in the first scene of Hamlet. The teacher said 3 sentences. That's what she had to write. Everybody else had to write pages about it, I guess. I don't know. And what happened in the first scene of Hamlet? 3 sentences. Annie looked at me and went, I said, oh, brother. I said, what happened? Hamlet was a king. He died. Then he turned into a ghost. Yes! Okay, write that down. You have got it. She went to school the next day, turned in her assignment, and the teacher called me up right after class and said, she can stay. She's got it better than a lot of the other kids do. So, you know, that's just an example of expectations. People have such low expectations of our kids. And it's unnecessary. They can benefit even if they can't achieve understanding every character and the deeper meaning and all of those things because of that experience, which, by the way, they did not teach Shakespeare in special ed self-contained classrooms. She never would have had that. And to this day, my daughter loves Shakespeare. I don't know why. I don't understand it, but she does. And she got, you know, the Leonardo DiCaprio video with Romeo and Juliet, and she loves that crap. So it was a life-changing experience for her because she was allowed to stay, because she was allowed to be a part of what everybody else does. And yeah, to have the right to be bored. If she wants to, if she's bored, that's fine. Everyone goes through that in their life. But that's just why we maintained it over the years. And it was a struggle at times. Every year at the IEP meeting, we had to justify why, yeah, 8th grade worked okay, but 9th grade, oh my God, you know, that. And she never went to a special ed class during her entire time when she had support. But that's a whole other story. So that's Annie in 8th grade. She graduated with her class and then spent a couple of years in the young adult program, which was based in a classroom at the high school. And I said, no, she's graduated. She does not want to come to school at school. Her job now is to get a job and to learn life skills and job skills. And so rather than going to a classroom in the high school and doing PE and leading lunch in the cafeteria, her program was to go to work in the morning. She took her lunch to work, worked all day, and at the end of the day came home and, you know, did her life skills at home with the assistance sometimes of her job coach who would come and help her learn laundry and start dinner and those kinds of things. So it was completely individualized for her. Maybe because I was such a squeaky wheel, but they did do it for a few other people. I don't know that they are anymore. So that was kind of her high school experience. Once she graduated, I'm going to back up to this. Once she graduated, the only option that was available for her, despite all of our advocacy efforts, was to go to a sheltered workshop. That was it. And so we had a choice to make. Do we try and figure out something else now, or do we just, you know, let her go? They said, well, let's figure it out, but in the meantime, let's let her go because she needed to be away from mom and dad. She's practically an adult now. She was an adult. She was 22. So she went to the sheltered workshop. She was there for 6 months, and every week I'd call them up or we'd meet, and I'd say, okay, we need to find her a job in the community. She's had umpteen different jobs while in high school during her time there. We need to do this. And they, well, we're assessing her. We're trying to figure that out. We don't know. It's going to take time. And then after 6 months, they called us up and they said, we think Annie was sexually assaulted at the workshop. And I took a big gulp and a big breath, and they said, and now we'd like you to take her to the hospital to get an examination by the sexual assault nurse there. And we did that, and she had not been raped, but who knows what else could have occurred. And so I called them up and told them the results of the examination. They said, great, she can come back tomorrow. No, that won't be happening ever. We need to come up with something else. So the agency kindly and I guess to protect themselves, gave her what amounted to home-based funding, an amount of money so that we could hire people to support her outside of the workshop. And it was the beginning of her living an independent life away from those isolated places, which honestly scare me to death. I know they can be great, and I know that they're going to be there if we ever need them, but we don't want them if we don't have to. What she's doing right now in her life can't be matched by any isolated situation. She's with people who love her, who know her, who respect her, and know that she's got gifts and abilities that, you know, every person has gifts and abilities, no matter what their involvement of disability is. And Annie has her challenges, but she also is able to manage her life fairly well. So when she left the agency, we did a path plan for her, similar to what we did for the Connected Community group early on, with that group of, 7 parents that we had in a room, somebody's living room, and we put this big piece of paper on the wall and said, okay, what are your hopes and dreams? 10 years from now. I don't know that we had this meeting, you know, on the list, but what are your hopes and dreams, and what kinds of things do you want in your life? For Annie, and you probably can't see this very well either place, either on the screen or on your handout, but her dreams were to work with small children. She wanted to work in a daycare. She wanted to have her own apartment. She wanted to have a book club with her friends. She wanted to party with her friends. She wanted to work out, have a job, be in theater and music, and she loves sports. So all of those things were a part. And the rest of the plan really is, what do we do to get her there? One of the dreams that she had was to vacation without her parents. That was a big one, and I'll get to that in a minute. But so we had people in the room, and you know, the state of Illinois has this discovery plan that they use with people. I don't know, how many of you have been through the discovery plan? The ISP comes to your house, and yeah, okay. So you've been through that. You know that really, in my impression of it is that it's really about what are the things that we need to do to fix this person? What are the skills that we need to teach them to be able to be more independent? It's nothing about what do you want your life to be like in the future? That's the question I'd like to hear them ask. What do you, as a parent, what is it that you want for your adult child to give them the best possible life? That's all we want for our kids, is for them to have a great life without us necessarily, because likelihood is we're not going to outlive our children. And so what do we do to not only create that, to maintain it, but to maintain it? So a couple years later, we bought a duplex. Happened to be right smack dab in the middle of town. On the other side of this duplex is a Walgreens, and then across the street is downtown Mahomet, Illinois. So it was walking distance to everything, and we bought the duplex. We were fortunate enough to be able to finagle the financing because our house was just about paid off. And so we refinanced it, and we had to remodel this place because it was awful. The guy that lived in there had a dozen tropical birds, and oh my God, it smelled so bad. But anyway, we fixed it all up, repainted it, and Annie would not go in because of the stink, but eventually she did. In the remodeling process, we found that the woman who lived in the other half of the duplex, who was still there, was very interested in being a support worker for Annie, being a support person for her. And so to ease that a little bit, we put a doorway between the 2 units so that Kelly could get back and forth to check in on Annie and so forth without having to go out and around in the weather. So, and as it turns out, that really wasn't necessary. It helped for a while, but Annie learned to be quite independent and was able to do much more than we ever expected that she could do for herself because of the extent of her disabilities. But she had the opportunity to learn, and it really worked out for the best. That's Kelly. That's the young woman who lived on the other side. She doesn't live there anymore. She moved out, but she is still a personal support worker for Annie 1 day a week. On Mondays, when she has her day off, she has a full-time job as a supervisor at the Secretary of State's office in Champaign, but connects with Annie on that 1 day off on Monday. So that's a good connection. This is from a picture of Kelly and Annie and some of Annie's friends just hanging out in her apartment when she got moved in. She's been in her apartment now. We argue about the dates on this, and I couldn't figure out exactly. I think she moved in 2012, July 12th of 2012, which makes it going on 11 years now. Seems unbelievable at the time, but she does connect with her friends on a regular basis, too. She does her own dishes. She does her own laundry. This is Annie cooking, and she was making hamburger helper and was doing it independently when Kelly next door smelled hamburger cooking. And so she came over and said, "Annie, do you need help?" And Annie said, "I've got directions." So she made her hamburger helper. I think it was a little bit, the macaroni part was a little bit tough, but she ate it anyway. Yeah, that's true. Going grocery shopping, the grocery store is like a block from her house. And if she needs something in a pinch, she goes to Walgreens. This is marching in the parade. She was going to Curves. We had a Curves in Mahomet for a while, and she would go there a few days a week and work out, and this is her marching in the parade. Love passing out the candy. This is another one of her personal support workers. Now, this person in her path was talking, when Annie was talking about going on vacation without parents, Angie raised her hand and said, "I'll go on vacation with her. Where do you want to go? Disney World, Six Flags, where do you want to go?" And within a month, Annie and Angie had planned a vacation for themselves and for 3 of Annie's friends to go to Universal Studios in Orlando. And they did that without any input from us. The 4 of them, the 3 friends and Annie spent a little extra money to cover costs for Angie so that she didn't have to pay for her trip. Her pay was the trip. We didn't have to pay extra for that. So that was a good deal, and that was just one of those things that came up by all of us thinking really hard during that person-centered planning process. Annie got a job working at First School, which is a preschool, daycare, kindergarten kind of a program in Mahomet. And this is her leading a group playing Apples to Apples, which is one of her favorite things to do. She also did some sweeping and helping serve snacks and wiping tables and things like that, but just really enjoyed and supervising the bus, which is something she really liked too. When we run into the children in the grocery store, they'd say, "Mommy, it's Miss Annie." And she loved that. When COVID hit, we pulled her out because it was just too risky for somebody with her health concerns. She's had 3 heart surgeries over the past few years, and we just didn't want to risk it. The owner said, anytime she wants to come back, she can come back. Here's Annie working out. She does Curves closed, but there is a gym in town that she has since joined that the supervisor of the gym is a good friend. And the owner of the gym actually now lives in the other side of the duplex. She volunteered at church. She volunteered at the Humane Society. She sings in a choir. This has been happening since the Path too. She has been in a community choir. They practice every Monday night from September through May, and they have several concerts during the year, and she loves doing this. She's the only person in the choir with a disability. It's not, they have that special choir out there. This is an actual choir. I don't know why that's in there twice. Okay. She took tap dancing lessons. There was a dance studio and a woman teaching tap lessons to adult women. Sure, why not? She still has her tap shoes. They stopped teaching the class, but she's got her tap shoes just in case. They have a festival right down the street in the center of town in the village, and they've got, this is, I'm sure, country music night on the music festival, and Annie is in there somewhere. She gets her lawn chair, hikes down to the center of town, puts down her lawn chair, and she's there for 2 days. She'll get food at the trucks and come home to sleep, and that's it. I don't know what she's doing here. Volunteering, doing something. Goes out with her friends on occasion, and during COVID, she started checking in with her friends weekly. They would have their book club meetings, and they'd usually get together. But during COVID, nobody wanted to get together, obviously, and so she started learning to use Zoom. And they still have weekly meetings on Zoom every Tuesday night. This is one of her pictures from vacation. Kelly and Angie went on that one. And this is a newer person who is a personal support worker. That's Becky, and Becky and Annie do lots of interesting stuff. That's her group that came. This is from her birthday party. She turned 40 on February 25th, the same birthday as her dad, but her dad was a little older. And she had invited everybody she knew, so her friends were there. These are some folks from her choir that came to the party, some people from the gym that were there, and this is the gym supervisor that has become, she said, when I retire from being the supervisor at the gym, I want to be Annie's personal support worker. So that's kind of in the plan too. Just a friend of ours. You can see it was a big blowout thing, and that is the most recent picture I have of Annie, taken during the end of the sports season. She was hoping Butler University is her team because her sister went to Butler, and then Cincinnati is where she was born. So any Cincinnati team is her team. The Reds are huge right now in her life. So I think that is it for that. Just a couple things I'd like to say is that not everybody is going to have Annie's life and shouldn't. It should be, if you have a child with a disability, an adult child, their life should be what they want and need. And our job as parents and support professionals is to figure out how we can make that happen. Does it really have to be just special programs, or is there something out there that can serve? Now, our local provider has a gym in their facility. Is it really necessary for her to go there? Probably not. We have to figure out a way to make it happen so that it works for her, that she's going to be safe, that she's going to be involved and engaged, but not necessarily segregated. It's really a difficult thing to avoid, and sometimes it feels like, living off the grid, like people who live up in the mountains with no electricity and no water, and no resources of any kind, and trying to figure out how to make it happen. And it takes a lot of energy to do that, but you always know that you don't have to necessarily settle for less than ideal. I'm encouraged by the fact that the last time I spoke with a group at this location with Connect to Community, it was a whole bunch of people I already knew. And I don't know a lot of you folks. So I'm encouraged that we have a whole bunch of new people engaged in the area, and it was exciting to see you get on that app and contact the state of Illinois and tell them what they need to do, because there's a lot that needs to be done. There is a lot of stuff that needs to be done with converting state-operated developmental centers into community supports. That's one of the reasons why our kids get so little right now. There's a lot to be done with this new electronic verification thing, which is driving me insane, that they want parents who have their kids at home to check in and check out of hours that they're working. Don't they know you never stop working? You know, are they going to start paying us overtime for that? I don't think so. No, that's not going to work. And then for people who are personal support workers who do that for their job, they can only get paid for the hours that they check in and check out. Do they not get paid vacation? Ever? It just isn't very well thought out. So if you have not had a chance to, I think there's one more or two more public input sessions on that. So you may want to check into that and put your thoughts and feelings together for the state to understand what you're doing with that. So I can ramble on. I'm on a soapbox. I haven't been on one in about 3 years, so you're just going to have to deal. Any questions for me? Happy to answer them.
Loud enough. Okay, good.
Hi, thanks for sharing. That's so encouraging. Just curious how you have found personal support workers. Any comments?
Well, we've tried a couple different things. First, we tried putting an ad in the newspaper. Yeah, that was marginally successful. What we ended up doing was we started a cooperative, very much like Connected Community, in the Champaign area. I was chairman of the board of that group for 5 or 6 years. It's called Community Choices. And Community Choices essentially started out as a group of parents, just like you guys did here, talking about what we can do to work together. And so a lot of the people that we hired as personal support workers were people that were known by other families, or people from our own community, or friends of a friend. And that's how, if I want to hire another person, we've had the people that we have for quite some time now. We have 3 regular personal support workers for Annie, plus 1 person who just steps in as a sub if needed. And that has worked out real well. But generally, I say, who do you know? Who do you know and trust that you would allow to be with this person? No one? Yeah. You need to get out more. Honestly, that's a thing that happens to parents, is that we ourselves tend to isolate. And we don't have time to get out there and join clubs and get engaged or be in a choir or any of that stuff. If you get out there and make an attempt to do something to get connected to your community, it's not just for our kids. It's for you too. But you want to have those personal connections, I think. You have to be able to trust the people that you're leaving your child with. Does that help?
Hold on, I'm coming. Hi, thank you. Quick question, or actually it's 2 questions. First of all, I'm curious how involved you are in Annie's life now. And second question, have there ever been security, safety concerns, and how did you address those?
The security safety concern is something that we addressed fairly recently, actually. She moved from the one side of the duplex to the other side, which is a little bit more accessible from the street. And one day, she told us that somebody rang her doorbell and ran away. So we just went out there, toddled out, and got a Ring doorbell for her, put that on, and now we see her personal support workers coming and going, and Annie coming and going, and anybody that comes to the door we see coming and going. So that has been really helpful there. We also added a security camera on the same system in her living room. So you can put that on, we put it on the shelf, you see her living room, you can see the front door, you can see down the hallway, and you can see when she goes into the kitchen, into the bathroom, or into the bedroom. It's enough for her, I think, and she's perfectly capable of calling us up and saying, hey, you know, somebody's bothering me. But that was the only instance that I'm aware of where we had a security concern. Yeah.
How many hours of personal support does she have, and what's your funding base for everything?
I just missed part of your question, I think, too, because you asked how much I do for Annie. I'll talk about both of those. First of all, yeah, we see her, we talk to her every day. She'll call at the end of the day, and we talk about what she did and where she went and all that kind of stuff. So there's nothing regular that we do. If we're going out for dinner, we'll call Annie and say, hey, you want to go with us to the Mexican place in town? Or do you want to, you know? And sometimes she will, and sometimes she won't. Like we invited her out to go with us to a music thing on Thursday night. And she said, no, I don't want to go. I'm going to stay home. Fine. On Sunday, our only regular gig is on Sunday. I go grocery shopping, and she goes grocery shopping. We don't go together. Well, we drive together, and then she'll go do her shopping, and I do my shopping, and then we meet at the end, and yeah, it works out like that. But if there are emergencies, well, if there's a broken pipe, you know, her air conditioning quit working, those kinds of things we'll handle. And then your question was about personal support. And the funding is the home-based funding program. I mean, that's really kind of the only game in town right now, unless you have agency funding. Now, I do know a person who has a micro board who has their family member in a 24-hour SILA. That's his. He doesn't have any roommates, but that's only because he has significant behavior or has had significant behavior in the past, and no group home would take him, but he hasn't had any behavior in like forever, and she's trying to keep it on the down low because, you know, it's his living situation that's making it so much better for him. He's in control. It's his home. So there's that. Her personal support workers are there about a total of 20 hours a week, I'd say. And their job mainly is to haul her around places. You know, she can walk to the gym on a nice day, which she did yesterday. We saw her coming home on the Ring doorbell, so we knew that happened. But they'll take her into Champaign, they'll go out for lunch, they'll go shopping. If she is currently volunteering at the gym, doing some work there, not paid work. She, for whatever reason, was not interested in going back to the daycare center, but we're exploring through the co-op maybe some other kind of employment opportunity or volunteer opportunity. She's got a very busy life right now, and I don't know that she'd have to give something up to fit a job in, and I'm not sure she's willing to do that. She goes to her choir every Monday night. She has her book club every Tuesday night, sometimes in person, sometimes not, and by God, she doesn't like to change. She just does. She is a scheduled person, and she wants to maintain that schedule. Yeah. Did I forget part of your question?
Do you rent out the other half then?
Yes, we decided when she moved over to the other half, it was because Kelly had moved out. That's the smaller half of the duplex. It's only a 2-bedroom side. The big side she was in had a 3-bedroom. We learned early on that a roommate wasn't going to be a good plan for her. we had one for a while, and so she moved over, and she liked the remodel of the old side, so she moved to the other side. And on the side that she moved out of, the owner of our gym and his girlfriend moved in to that side. They aren't providing any support at all for Annie, but they are sharing a good load of the expenses.
Any questions?
You?
What's the plan for the future? What, as you and your husband age out and things happen, what is the care plan and the support plan for Annie?
The care plan, that's an interesting one. My husband and I have been talking, because I'm 72, and he's, a couple years younger than I am, but, we want her to maintain the best possible life when we're not around to manage it anymore. And so she's got 2 siblings. Her brother lives in St. Charles, so this neighborhood up here, and she has a sister who lives in Colorado. And so, and Mark and I, my husband and I, have been to Colorado on several occasions on vacation before our daughter ever moved out there. We love Colorado, and so we're actually thinking that maybe it might be a good idea in the next few years to sell our house and the duplex and buy a duplex in Colorado where Annie lives in half of it and we live in half of it, and she's near her sister. And so when we die away, that she's not displaced, that she has her home. And my other daughter could rent out that other half of the duplex and help to support her in that way, but she would be close. We're looking at places in the Fort Collins area. Our daughter's not in Fort Collins, but she's in a community not too far away. So it would be close enough that she would have the support. And here's the other thing that I'm kind of thinking. Haven't spent a lot of time investigating this yet, but Illinois is, 48th out of 50 states on the money they put into community services. I think Colorado is somewhere around number 7 or 8. Yeah, probably 6 months or so. We could deal with that. There is probably a residency. But I haven't had a chance to make that contact yet. But that's kind of the direction that we're leaning. I don't mind living by mountains.
Oh, yeah, I was just going to bring up the residency requirement when you move to Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
I thought I looked that up, and it's like 6 to 8 years that you have to be on the list before if you move from another state. So, because I look at those things, too. I'm always looking at.
Yeah, like I said, I haven't checked it out yet, but that may be the determining factor if we decide, that we can't do it.
I just had a question in regard to the bringing in the cameras into the home. So you mentioned the Ring doorbell, which I know a lot of people have, but having the camera in the living space, what kind of conversation did you have with your daughter about that? If she was to have somebody over and, just some of those conversations and how you guys have navigated that.
Yeah, she was okay with it. She's actually got the app on her phone so that she can see, she can see the recordings, she can see everything that's there, and we made sure that she knew how to work that, and she was okay with it. I don't know, she just didn't seem to have a problem with it at all. So I guess as long as we couldn't see her in the shower, she was fine with it.
Okay, so you can tell this subject is where I'm at because I'm still stuck on the transition as we step away as parents. Has your other daughter said she wants you all to move out there? And does Annie want to move?
Yes. Our younger daughter has said, in fact, she's texting me pictures of duplexes all the time. The problem is that if we buy something out there, it's going to cost about what the 2 units that, the duplex and our house, we sell those, we may be able to swing a duplex out there. That's one of the issues. Annie loves her sister. She loves Colorado. I think that she would, my worry is that she would miss the people that she cares about and she loves here, her friends, the people in her choir. Those are kinds of things that we have to think about. How do we get her engaged in similar activities and get her involved in community there? Not just being, shopping in the community, but actually having friends and engaged in activity. That's the big thing. And it probably would take another path to make sure that we're doing that right, because it changes, life changes after a period of time, but that is kind of the plan.
Any more questions?
Hi, I'm just curious what, if you can think back, it sounds like 20 years ago now, to what were some of your biggest worries in making that transition to her living independently and moving out of your house, and what were the biggest helps to help you navigate that?
Well, I think that's a great question, and I think she didn't move out. Yeah, she was just about 30 when she was getting ready to move out of our house. And we knew the person that owned the duplex. He passed away, and we bought it from the family and all that, with the thought that that would be a great location for Annie. She was not convinced at that point, but what I did know about her is that she was more engaged and more expressive and more communicative when she was not with us. If we were there, I was supposed to talk for her and do for her, and I would do the cooking, and I would do the laundry, and I would do all of those things that I knew she was perfectly capable of doing, given the opportunity. Now, granted, she does her own laundry. She'll put the whites in with the dark clothes. And you know what? That drives my husband absolutely insane. And I said, so her socks are a little gray. She's doing it herself. Get over it. But, those are the kinds of things that we consider. Those are things that she can do on her own that she never had the opportunity to do. And she needs to be able to live without us. We're not going to be here forever. We're just not. So that's kind of the reasoning that I used behind it. And it panned out to be quite true. We thought she was going to need a whole lot more support living in that apartment than she actually ended up needing. We thought there had to be somebody there all night. That's why Kelly and the open door, between the units, she didn't really need that. So it has worked out well.
Any more? Linda?
All right, well, I'll stick around for lunch if anybody has any more questions that pop up. And I don't have all the answers. I just have probably as many questions or more than you, but I'm doing the best I can.